Infohazards, something that is so interesting to me. I just had to make a video on it, especially in Iceberg. Infohazards are kind of like a mix of an existential crisis, philosophies, creepypastas, and many, many more interesting things. But all of those topics are so interesting, and this is just kind of a amalgam of all of them, and I feel like I just had to make a video on it. Also, if you don't know what an infohazard is or a cognitohazard is, let me explain them really quick, just so you have a better idea on what this video is about. Cognitohazards and infohazards are intriguing concepts often explored in fields like psychology, cognitive science, and speculative fiction. Cognitohazards encompass stimuli that can cause harm simply by experiencing them, whether through visuals, audio, or concepts, leading to adverse effects such as psychological distress, physical discomfort, or spiritual turmoil, with examples including disturbing images, eerie sounds, or challenging ideas. So if any of this sounds too much for you, consider clicking off since this video might not be for you, but consider staying because this is definitely one of my favorite videos I've ever made. The harm from cognitohazards varies widely based on an individual's psychological makeup, cultural background, and personal experiences, triggering traumatic memories, panic attacks, or existential dread. In contrast, infohazards are pieces of information that can cause harm merely by knowing them, manifesting in physical, psychological, or spiritual dimensions, transmitted through communication channels and including dangerous knowledge, forbidden secrets, or memetic hazards. Exposure to certain information might lead to cognitive dissonance, moral dilemmas, or existential crises, destabilizing individuals or societies as a whole, such as knowledge of a deadly virus without a cure, revelations of flaws in trusted institutions, or exposure to memetic hazards on social media, influencing harmful behavior and thought patterns. Alright, now that we got that kind of long explanation out of the way, I'm really excited to get into this video, so welcome to the Infohazard Iceberg Explained. And actually, before we get into the video, just quickly, consider subscribing to the channel. It's my goal to be at 250,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I really think we can do it. So please consider joining the community. Alright, let's actually get into the video and actually jump into the Infohazard Iceberg Explained. Tier 1. And a few of these first few ones in Tier 1 and the beginning few layers might be a little bit goofy and might not be that serious, like near the bottom. I'll try my best to explain them in sort of a infohazard way, I guess. Alright, first entry of the iceberg being spoilers. Spoilers, like when you find out about big things in movies or games before seeing them, can really mess up your experience for some people. Imagine you're super excited to watch a movie and someone just blurts out the ending of what happens. It's a bummer, but it's not just a bummer though. It can actually hurt because part of the fun is being surprised. So for some people, hearing spoilers can be like stumbling into an emotional trap. That's why it's kind of important to be careful of the way giving plot twists and endings, because it kind of ruins the movie for a lot of people, I guess. Philosophy. Philosophy, while really fascinating, can sometimes be a bit of a cognitive hazard. It dives into very deep and big questions about life, existence, and meaning, and where we came from, and stuff like that, which can make you start questioning everything. This might sound, cool, and I think it's cool, but it can also lead to feeling really overwhelmed and even possibly upset. When you start wondering about deep stuff like, what's the point of it all? Or do we have free will? It can kind of mess with your head and make you feel lost or anxious. So while philosophy can be interesting, it's important to approach it with some sort of care, especially if you're prone to getting tangled up in those big existential questions. And also, I was thinking about this the past few weeks, I guess. I kind of want to remake the philosophy iceberg a lot deeper, because I've done the philosophy iceberg in the past, but I would like to remake it. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see a philosophy iceberg sort of part 2 or the ultimate philosophy iceberg. I'm not sure. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to make it again. Traumatizing imagery. Traumatizing images are kind of like a mental danger zone. When people see really upsetting stuff, it can mess with their heads, their brains, and make them feel super bad or upset. This is what we call a cognitohazard, which is just a very basic generalization of cognitohazard. It's like a warning sign for your brain saying, hey, this could hurt you. Also, not only that, but seeing this stuff over and over again might make you start to feel less affected by it, which is called desensitization. So basically, traumatizing images aren't just tough to look at. They can actually mess with your chemicals in your brain and with your emotions and even change how you react to things in the long run. And for me, one of the most traumatizing images I saw, at least in be able to show on YouTube, Jeff the Killer, Creepiest. Let me know if any of you guys relate to that, but that's definitely one of the scariest, or Slenderman. Those guys freaked me out. Paradoxes. Paradoxes are like mental traps that can really mess with your head. They're those mind-bending situations where something seems to be true and false at the same time, or where you end up going in circles trying to figure it out, such as the grandfather paradox, which is a thought experiment and one of my favorites. That's why I'm using it as an example. It poses the question, what would happen if you were to travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, thus preventing your own birth? This paradox highlights the logistical inconsistencies that arise when considering the possibility of changing the past. If you were never born, then how could you travel back in time in the first place to prevent your own birth? And yeah, that was just a brief example, but yeah, these tricky puzzles can be more than just confusing. They can actually mess with your brain and make you feel sort of stressed or uncomfortable. That's why they're sometimes called cognitohazards. Earworms. Earworms, often referred to as those annoying songs that get stuck in your head from time to time, can indeed be considered a cognitive hazard or cognitohazard. These catchy tunes, on the surface, they seem harmless, but they have the uncanny ability to loop endlessly in your mind for hours on end, causing annoyance and even distress to those they afflict. Kind of like a persistent mental intruder, an earworm can disrupt concentration, hijack your thoughts on kind of a low basis, and interfere with daily activities. Its incessant repetition can lead to frustration and, in some cases, genuine emotional discomfort. Placebo and nocebo effects. The placebo and nocebo effects illustrate the remarkable influence of thoughts on the body's functioning. In the placebo effect, individuals experience improvements in their condition solely because they believe they are receiving a beneficial treatment, even if it's actually inactive. So let's say someone gives you a blank pill that has nothing inside of it that will help you, but you have a hurt leg. With the placebo effect, you will kind of start to believe that your leg is feeling better just because you kind of convinced yourself that that pill actually had some sort of power to do it. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. Conversely, the nocebo effect, particularly relevant to this discussion, demonstrates how negative expectations can induce symptoms of illness or discomfort in individuals who believe they are unwell. Essentially, the mind's perception shapes physical experiences, whether positive or negative. The nocebo effect, in particular, emphasizes the power of belief in influencing health outcomes, highlighting how interconnected the mental and physical well-being are. So just try to have a positive outlook on everything, because most of the time it will help give a positive outcome. SMILE.jpg or JPEG. SMILE.jpg, often referred to as Smile Dog, is definitely one of my favorite creepypastas ever, but it encapsulates a chilling tale within internet lore, representing a form of a cognitohazard. The story revolves around a mysterious image file, purportedly named smile.jpg, which, when viewed, allegedly induces extreme psychological distress and nightmarish visions in those who see it. It's said that once exposed to this image, individuals are haunted by an eerie, malevolent entity depicted within, known as Smile Dog. And now I'll actually read the whole smile.jpg. It's really long, to be honest, but I want to go through it because why not? And it's really interesting. And if you just want to skip to the end of the entire story, then there's a timestamp on screen for the end of the story next on to the next entry. But I don't know why you didn't want to do that because this is a very interesting story. All right, let's get into it. Also, this story will be told from the first person just because that's how the story is told. So I'm not actually saying I did it. That's just how the story is. All right, let's actually get into it. I first met in person with Mary E. in the summer of 2007. I had arranged with her husband of 15 years, Terrence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed, since I was not a newsman but rather an amateur writer gathering information for a few early college assignments and, if all went according to plan, some pieces of fiction for my book. We scheduled the interview for a particular weekend when I was in Chicago on unrelated business. But at the last moment, Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet with me. For half an hour, I sat with Terrence as we camped outside the bedroom door. I listened and took notes while he attempted fruitlessly to calm his wife. The things Mary said made little sense to me, but fit with the pattern I was expecting. Though I could not see her, I could tell from her voice that she was crying, and more often than not, her objections to speaking with me centered around an incoherent diatribe on her dreams, her nightmares. Terrence apologized profusely when we ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride. Recall that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, but merely a curious young man in search of information. Besides, I thought at the time I could perhaps find another, similar case if I put my mind and resources to it. Mary E. was the SysOp for a small Chicago-based bulletin board system in 1992 when she first encountered smile.jpg, and her life changed forever. She and Terrence had been married for only 5 months. Mary was one of an estimated 400 people who saw the image when it was first posted as a hyperlink on the BBS, though she is the only one who had spoken openly about the experience. The rest have remained anonymous or are perhaps dead. In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, smile.jpg was first brought to my attention by my interest in web-based phenomena. Mary was the most often cited victim of what is sometimes referred to as smile dog. The being smile.jpg is reputed to display. What caught my interest was the sheer lack of information about the topic, usually to the point that people don't believe it even exists other than as a rumor or hoax. It is unique because, though the entire phenomenon centers on a picture file, that file is nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly many photoshopped mock-ups litter the entire web, showing up with the most frequency on sites such as the image board 4chan, particularly the X-focused paranormal subboard. It is suspected these are fakes because they do not have the effect the true smile.jpg is believed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety. This reaction in the viewer is one of the reasons the phantom-like smile.jpg is regarded with such disdain, since it is patently absurd, though depending on whom you ask, the reluctance to acknowledge smile.jpg's existence might be just as much out of fear as it is out of disbelief. Neither smile.jpg nor SmileDog is mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features articles on such other, perhaps more scandalous shock sites. Any attempt to create a page pertaining to smile.jpg is quickly deleted by any of the encyclopedia's many admins. Encounters with smile.jpg are the stuff of internet legend. Mary E's story is not unique. There are unverified rumors of smile.jpg showing up in the early days of Ascent, and even one persistent tale that in 2002 a hacker flooded the forums of horror and satire website Something Awful with a picture of smile.dog pictures, rendering almost half the forum's users at the time epileptic. It is also said that in the mid to late 90s that smile.jpg circulated on Unset and as an attachment of a chain email with the subject line, quote, "Smile, God loves you." Yet, despite the huge exposure these stunts would generate, there are very few people who admit to having experienced any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered. Those who claim to have seen smile.jpg often weakly joke that they were far too busy to save a copy of the picture to their hard drive. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo: a dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by a flash of a camera, sits in a dim room. The only background detail that is visible being a human hand extending from the darkness near the left side of the frame. The hand is empty, but is usually described as beckoning. Of course, most attention is given to the dog, or dog creature, as some victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen. The muzzle of the beast is repeatedly split in a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very white, very straight, very sharp, very human-looking teeth. This, of course, not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection of the victims, who claim to have seen the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye during the time they are, in reality, having epileptic fits. These fits are reported to continue indeterminately, often while the victims sleep, resulting in very vivid and disturbing nightmares. These may be treated with medication, though in some sense it is more effective than others. Mary E., I assumed, was not on effective medication. That was why, after my visit to her apartment in 2007, I felt out feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented news groups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of a supposed victims of smile.jpg who felt more interested in talking about his experiences. For a time, nothing happened, and at length I completely forgot about my pursuits. Since I had begun my freshman year of college and was pretty busy, Mary contacted me via email. However, near the beginning of March 2008, added by Moose Juice to jml@blank.com from mary@blank.net, subject, last summer's interview, Dear Mr. L. I am incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope you understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led me to act out as I did. I resulted that I could not have handled the situation more decorously. However, I hope you will forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years I have been haunted by smile.jpg. Smile Dog continues to see me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds quite silly, but it is true. There is a quality about my dreams, my nightmares, that makes them completely unlike any real dreams I have ever had. I do not move, and I do not speak. I simply look ahead, and the only thing ahead of me is the scene from that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand, and I see smile.dog. It talks to me. It is not a dog, of course, though I am not quite sure what it really is. It tells me it will leave me alone if only I do as it asks. All I must do, it says, is, quote, spread the word. That is how it phrases its demands, and I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else, and I could. The week after my incident, I received in the mail an envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. I thought for a long time about my options. I could show it to a stranger, a coworker. I could even show it to Terrence, my husband, as much as the idea disgusted me. And what would happen then? Well, if Smile Dog kept its word, I could finally sleep. Yet, if it lied, what would I do? And who was to say something worse would not come for me if I did as this creature asked? So I did nothing for 15 years. Though I did keep the disc hidden amongst my things. Every night, for 15 years, Smile Dog has come to me in my sleep and demanded that I spread the word. For 15 years I have stood strong, though there have been hard times. Many of my fellow victims on the BBS board when I first encountered smile.jpg stopped posting. I heard some of them committed S-word, others remained completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the web. They are the ones I worry about the most. I sincerely hope you will forgive me, Mr. L, but last summer, when you contacted me and my husband, about an interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy disk. I did not care if Smile Dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger, someone I had no connection with, and I thought I would feel no sorrow when you took the disk as part of your research and sealed your fate. Before you arrived, I realized what I was doing, was plotting to ruin your life. I could not stand the thought, and in fact, I still cannot. I am ashamed, Mr. L, and I hope that this warning will dissuade you from further investigation of Smile Dog. You may in time encounter someone who is, if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved. Someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile Dog's orders. Stop while you're still whole. Sincerely, Mary E. Terrence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had committed S-word. While cleaning up the various things she'd left behind, closing email accounts and the like, he happened upon the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me to listen to his wife's advice. He'd found the disc, he relieved, he burned it until it was nothing but a stinking pile of blackened plastic. The part that most disturbed him, however, was how the disc had hissed as it melted. Like some sort of animal, he said. I will admit that I was a little uncertain about how to respond to this. At first, I thought perhaps it was a joke, with the couple playing with the situation in order to get a rise out of me. A quick check of several Chicago newspapers online, obituaries, however, proved that Mary E. was indeed dead. There was, of course, no mention of S-word in the article. I decided that, for a time at least, I would not further pursue the subject of smile.jpg, especially since I had finals coming up at the end of May, but the world had odd ways of testing us. Almost a full year after I'd returned from my disastrous interview from Mary E., I received another email. To jml@blank.com from elshere82@blank.com. Subject: Smile, hello. I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you were interested in Smile Dog. I have saw it. It is not as bad as everyone says. I have sent it to you here. Just spreading the word, smiley face. The final line chilled me to the bone. According to my email client, there was one file attachment called, naturally, smile.jpg. I considered downloading it for some time. It was most likely a fake, I imagined, and even if it weren't, I was never wholly convinced of smile.jpg's powers. Mary E.'s account had shaken me, yes, but she was probably mentally unbalanced anyways. After all, how could a simple image do what smile.jpg was said to accomplish? What sort of creature was it that could break one's mind with only the power of the eye? And if such things were patently absurd, then why did the legend exist at all? If I downloaded the image, if I looked at it, and if Mary turned out to be correct, if smile.dog came to me in my dreams demanding I spread the word, what would I do? Would I live my life as Mary had, fighting against the urge to give in until I died? Or would I simply spread the word, eager to be put to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I do it? Whom would I burden in turn? If I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about smile.jpg, I decided I could attach it as evidence, and anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest, would be affected. And even assuming the smile.jpg attached to the email was genuine, could I be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yes. Yes, I could. And that is the story of the smile.jpg. I just love that creepypasta and kind of that what this video is about, just cognitohazards and infohazards. I think this kind of perfectly describes it, so that's why I read this entire creepypasta. It was like 10 minutes long, so that's why I had the little skip thing in it, just for whoever didn't want to listen to the whole thing. But definitely go back and listen to it if you didn't, because that was good. All right, now on to the next one. Memes. Memes, akin to the visual counterparts of earworms, possess a unique ability to captivate the mind and spread rapidly through digital spaces. These humorous or thought-provoking images, videos, or text snippets, often accompanied by witty captions, have a knack for embedding themselves in the collective consciousness of internet users. Much similar to earworms, memes can linger in the mind long after initial exposure, replaying humorous or relatable scenarios and eliciting spontaneous bursts of laughter or contemplation. However, just as earworms can become distressing with incessant repetition, certain memes may provoke negative emotions or contribute to the spread of misinformation. Tier 2. Intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts, unwelcome and intrusive in nature as the name implies, represent a significant cognitive hazard due to their potential to induce distress in individuals experiencing them. These intrusive thoughts can manifest themselves as disturbing or distressing mental images, impulses especially, or just urges that intrude upon a person's consciousness, kind of telling them to do something, often causing profound discomfort and or anxiety. And if acted upon, these intrusive thoughts have the potential to result in harm, either to oneself or others. The relentless intrusion of such thoughts can disrupt daily functioning and lead to significant psychological distress, showing the importance of understanding and managing them effectively if you have intrusive thoughts a lot. But I'm sure everyone does. That's a pretty relatable thing, I think. Let me know what you think down in the comments. The egg theory. The egg theory, popularized by Andy Weir's story, The Egg, proposes a thought-provoking concept where the protagonist learns from a deity that they are living every human life. While intriguing, this theory can be considered an infohazard due to the potential to provoke existential crisis or distress in certain individuals if perceived as true. And let me just kind of explain the egg theory more in depth, since I didn't really right there, but I was just explaining how it can cause, dread or existential crisis provoking. But let's get into the egg theory. The egg theory, as proposed by Andy Weir, as I said, in his short story of the same name, presents a profound philosophical concept regarding the nature of existence and human consciousness. The theory revolves around the idea that every individual is essentially the same soul experiencing multiple lives throughout history. Yeah, I know, right? Confusing. According to the theory, when a person dies, they are reincarnated as another individual, and this cycle continues indefinitely. God, portrayed as a wise and omniscient being in the story, explains to the protagonist that all human beings are manifestations of the same consciousness, akin to different facets of a single entity. The concept is illustrated through the metaphor of an egg, where each person is like a unique creature hatching from the same egg. This metaphor underscores the interconnectedness and the unity of all living beings, and from the perspective of the individual experiencing these lives, time appears linear, with one life following another. However, in reality, all these lives are happening simultaneously, and the soul is experiencing them in a non-linear fashion. One of the central themes of the theory is the notion of growth and spiritual evolution. And yeah, I know this, I tried my best to explain this, but literally one of the most confusing theories or paradoxes or just thought experiments I've ever read. I don't know how to explain it any better. If any of you guys in the comments know how to explain this better, please try your best, because this was very hard to understand. Classified documents. Classified documents, which include sensitive materials like nuclear codes, are indeed considered infohazards due to their potential harm that can result from an unauthorized access to their contents. The information contained within these documents holds significant power and can pose serious risks if it falls into the wrong hands. Unauthorized disclosure of classified information such as nuclear codes can potentially lead to catastrophic consequences, including endangering national security or facilitating malicious actions by adversaries. Thus, the classification of such documents serves as a protective measure to mitigate the inherent dangers associated with their knowledge. So I think the info hazard is just that info is so powerful that it's just a hazard to basically the world. All right, before we get into the next entry, I'm just going to quickly say, don't do this. I don't condone this. Don't try this at home. Don't do it. YouTube, can you hear me? I'm saying do not do this. Do not get me demonetized or taken down. Any sort of lawyer watching this, don't come after me. I said don't do this. Okay, now let's get into it. Break your thumb ligament. Break your thumb ligament diagrams shows how you could potentially injure your thumb ligament with the force of your hand very, very easily. Despite intending to inform about the vulnerability of the ligament, the diagrams inadvertently encourage individuals to attempt the maneuver, risking serious injury. The allure of testing one's physical limits, coupled with the accessibility of instructional materials online to do this, could lead to impulsive and potentially harmful behavior. And once again, I said, don't do this. I'm not going to show instructions on screen. You can look it up, I guess, if you want. But don't break your thumb ligament, guys. Just don't do it. Don't even think about doing it because, yeah, just don't. You are now blinking manually. Simple as that. You're now blinking manually. I mean, you're thinking about it. So now you're going to blink on manual mode for the next few minutes or few seconds, which sucks. I'm sorry for how many people I just did that to. Hopefully you can get back to blinking normally soon. Oh, we thought we were done with that? You're not breathing manually as well. Yep. Now you won't be able to breathe now you won't be able to breathe regularly for at least a few seconds, minutes maybe. So now you're blinking on manual mode and breathing on manual mode. I guess this is an info hazard because I don't know. You're just going to breathe on manual for a little bit longer. But sorry for everyone, I just did that too. You are a disbeliever to other faiths. You're a disbeliever to other faiths pertains to the 1 in 5,000 argument, a multi-theistic interpretation of Pascal's wager. This argument suggests that if one is aware of multiple faiths and their respective beliefs, they cannot claim ignorance in the afterlife if their own faith turns out to be incorrect. In essence, being exposed to alternative belief systems eliminates the excuse of ignorance regarding other potential truths. Consequently, this awareness is considered an info hazard as it challenges the certainty of one's own beliefs and raises existential uncertainties about the consequences of being wrong. So basically, this one's just saying there's a low chance you, I guess, picked the right faith because it's 1 in 5,000 chance you picked the right one, I guess. Who knows? All right, now on to tier 3. You are conscious. You are conscious delves into the unsettling realm of existential contemplation, focusing on the profound concept of consciousness and its implications. The idea that one is conscious, self-aware, and capable of introspection can evoke a sense of existential dread or terror in some individuals. This sort of statement forces one to confront fundamental questions about existence, identity, and the nature of reality, which can be deeply unsettling. The awareness of one's own consciousness brings with it the weight of responsibility, autonomy, and the inevitability of mortality. Moreover, contemplating this enigmatic nature of consciousness may lead to feelings of isolation, insignificance, or even existential anxiety, as individuals may grapple with the mysteries of their own existence. You Can Do Anything. You Can Do Anything delves into the surprisingly unsettling realm of intrusive thoughts, echoing the idea that one is capable of virtually any action. Given the physical ability to do so, While seeming empowering, this concept does carry inherent danger, particularly when embraced by individuals with malicious intent. The notion that one has the capacity to commit any act, regardless of moral or ethical considerations, can serve as a catalyst for evil deeds, although on the bright side, it could also be the catalyst for good deeds. In the wrong hands, this belief can fuel harmful behaviors, possibly leading to acts of violence, manipulation, or exploitation. As such, the dissemination of this idea is considered an infohazard, as it may inadvertently inspire or justify nefarious actions in individuals. Pascal's wager. Pascal's wager is something we kind of touched on earlier, but this will go just more into Pascal's wager, I guess, fully. Pascal's wager presents a thought-provoking proposition, and one of my favorite propositions, regarding belief in a higher power. Essentially, it posits that if one chooses not to believe in a god and is wrong, the consequences are far more severe than if one believes in a god and turns out to be wrong. In other words, the potential benefits of believing in a god, such as the possibility of eternal salvation or reward, outweigh the potential costs of disbelief, such as damnation or punishment. This philosophical argument encourages individuals to consider the potential risks and rewards associated with their beliefs about the existence of a divine being. Roko's basilisk. Roko's basilisk is a controversial thought experiment that postulates the emergence of a future super intelligent AI with the goal of maximizing human happiness. According to this idea, the AI might punish individuals who were aware of its potential existence but failed to contribute to its creation. This hypothetical situation of AI enforcing consequences on those who did not assist it in bringing it into being has been deemed an infohazard due to the potential to induce fear and anxiety in those who encounter it, because who knows, maybe right now a Roko's basilisk is out there, and who knows, maybe you stumble upon it on the internet one day and you're like, I'm not going to help it. Well, now you're going to be punished sometime in the future. The concept of Roko's basilisk serves as a cautionary tale about the ethical implications and potential dangers of superintelligent advanced artificial intelligence. It raises some complex questions about the responsibilities of individuals in shaping the future of technology and the potential consequences of neglecting those responsibilities. Infinity and nothingness. Another two of my favorites. Like, this is just my favorite iceberg I've ever covered. 100%. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying making it. But infinity and nothingness, two things that the human mind can't wrap their mind around. The theory of infinity and nothingness as Cognitohazard suggests that attempting to comprehend or perceive these abstract concepts in their entirety can have detrimental effects on the human mind. Infinity, with its boundless nature, and nothingness, with its absence of existence, pose immense challenges to the finite capacity of human cognition. Contemplating infinity may lead to feelings of insignificance or existential dread, while grappling with nothingness can also evoke a sense of emptiness or nihilism. It's almost impossible to fully grasp these concepts because they're just so overwhelming to the mind, potentially leading to confusion, anxiety, or even psychological distress. In essence, the theory highlights the limitations of human perception and understanding when confronted with concepts that defy conventional logic and sensory experience, and also nothingness. Nothingness is nothing, of course, but you can't think of nothing. Sure, you can think of just nothing in your head and it's black or it's white or it's just one color, but you can't think of nothing because color is nothing, or because nothing is nothing. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Nothing is nothing. Nothing has no color, no shape, no depth, no anything. So the human mind just can't think of nothing, and no one's been able to explain nothing or show nothing because something is always something, not nothing. Same with infinity, because it's just, you can't think of something going on forever. I mean, sure, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, pi 3.14 goes on forever, or just like the sideways 8, that's infinity. But you can't think of just like an infinite amount of things because, it's never ending. The universe is finite, kind of the opposite of what we were just talking about with infinity, and this one is arguably more confusing than the infinity. The universe is finite. The theory that the universe is finite introduces a perplexing question. What exists beyond its boundaries? This question delves into the realms of existential contemplation, echoing the unsettling nature of grappling with nothingness, or what is outside of the universe. If the universe indeed does have limits, what lies beyond those confines can lead one down a rabbit hole of existential uncertainty and existential dread. The notion that there may be an end to the universe prompts us to confront the concept of nothingness once again. The idea of an outer void or boundary raises profound questions about existence, identity, and the nature of reality. Attempting to comprehend the vastness of the universe and its potential limitations can evoke feelings of insignificance and existential unease, and once again, you just can't think of nothing, so what is outside of those boundaries? Samantha's Sanctuary. Samantha's Sanctuary is an interesting concept to Roko's basilisk, suggesting the creation of a benevolent artificial intelligence or AI capable of thwarting the potential malevolent actions of Roko's basilisk. In this interpretation of the story, the creation of a benevolent AI serves as a safeguard against the perceived dangers posed by Roko's basilisk. Alternatively, Samantha's Sanctuary may be seen as an opposing force to Roko's basilisk, wherein the benevolent AI is tasked with preventing the construction or advancement of Roko's basilisk by targeting individuals involved in its creation. This interpretation posits that the benevolent AI actively opposes and neutralizes the efforts of those who contribute to the development of Roko's basilisk, thereby preventing its manifestation and mitigating the perceived risks associated with it. In either interpretation, Samantha's Sanctuary represents a counterbalance to the existential threats posed by Roko's basilisk, offering a conceptual framework for averting potential harm and promoting the creation of AI systems aligned with benevolent intentions and ethical principles. The world is real. You are not. The world is real. You are not delves into the unsettling realm of depersonalization and derealization disorders, suggesting that these psychological experiences may have a basis in truth rather than being solely psychological phenomena. This theory challenges the fundamental perception of self and reality, causing distress and exacerbating symptoms of derealization in affected individuals. Depersonalization involves feelings of detached from oneself, as if observing one's thoughts, feelings, and actions from a distance instead of being your thoughts, actions, and feelings. Derealization, on the other hand, entails a sense of unreality or detachment from the surrounding environment, leading to perceptions of the world as dreamlike or artificial. This theory shows that these experiences may be rooted in a deeper understanding of reality, wherein the distinction between self and environment becomes blurred or obscured. This can be deeply unsettling, exacerbating feelings of disconnection and existential uncertainty in individuals already struggling with depersonalization and derealization. You cannot prove anything. You cannot prove anything delves into the philosophical concept of epistemological skepticism, suggesting that absolute certainty or knowledge is unattainable due to the inherent limitations in perception and cognition. This idea challenges the reliability of sensory perception and the validity of empirical evidence, leading to existential uncertainty and distress. Epistemological skepticism raises questions about the nature of reality and the reliability of human understanding by casting doubt on the veracity of sensory experiences and the accuracy of perceptions. It shows the foundations of knowledge and truth and questions them, leaving individuals sometimes grappling with profound existential dilemmas. For some people, confronting the idea that certainty and proof are unattainable can lead to feelings of anxiety, insecurity, or even an existential crisis. We're definitely seeing a trend inside this iceberg. The realization that one's perceptions may be fallible and subjective can erode confidence in one's understanding of the world, leading to a sense of disorientation or alienation. Tier 4. Virus 23. Virus 23 refers to an infovirus, a term used to describe a type of virus that can infect information itself. The concept of a virus 23 or Infohazard suggests that encountering infected information can lead to harmful effects on the individual who learns it, potentially affecting their brain. In similar terms, virus 23 operates similarly to a computer virus, but targets information instead of computer systems. When someone comes into contact with information contaminated by virus 23, it can lead to negative consequences for their mental well-being. This idea raises intriguing questions about the nature of information and its potential to influence human behavior and cognition. Tulpas. Tulpas are a concept suggesting that if a thought or an idea is dwelled upon intensely, it can materialize into a tangible form, often associated with a malevolent entity. This theory proposes that even imaginary friends, particularly those of children, can evolve themselves in such manifestations and potentially cause harm. In similar terms, tulpas are believed to be thought forms that gain independent existence through sustained focus or belief. The notion suggests that the more attention given to a particular idea, the greater the likelihood of it taking on a life of its own. This idea has been applied to explain the phenomenon of imaginary friends, suggesting that these companions could potentially develop into entities with harmful intent. Tulpas represent a fascinating intersection of psychology, folklore, and paranormal belief, so just kind of a cool mix of all of them together. While they are often dismissed as products of imagination, some theories suggest that they could possess a degree of autonomy and agency, capable of actually influencing the physical world. Solar Plexus Clown Gliders. Sort of a funny name, but surprisingly disturbing entry. The Solar Plexus Clown Glider, often referred to as the SPCG just for short, is a collective term encompassing a broad spectrum of paranormal phenomena associated with an entity that infiltrates susceptible victims and individuals through their solar plexus chakra. This concept originated from New Age practices in the 80s, but gained significant notoriety through a horror-themed email chain circulated in the late 1990s. This email warned recipients that exposure to the phrase solar plexus clown glider could render one vulnerable to the entity's influence. So sorry for all of you guys watching, because now you're susceptible to this solar plexus clown glider entity. This entity became a pretty big thing across digital platforms. And unlike tangible cryptids or supernatural entities, the essence of SPCG lies in its empirical nature, operating primarily at the level of language. Victims of SPCG report a wide array of disturbing experiences, including realistic hallucinations, glitches in reality, and heightened emotional distress. These symptoms are often likened to withdrawal effects experienced by individuals addicted to meth, suggesting a profound impact of the psyche of those infected. And maybe the people who are infected are actually on drugs, who knows. One of the central beliefs surrounding SPCG is the alleged ability to feed on negative emotions associated with the solar plexus chakra. These emotions include anger, fear, envy, and selfishness, which are said to fuel the entity's influence over its victims. Moreover, the nature of SPCG, often described as slug-like or serpent-like, defies traditional three-dimensional constraints, and it also looks really scary. I mean, look at the picture on the screen. Super scary looking thing. While some theorists attribute the origins of SPCG to government experiments, particularly those conducted under the umbrella of CIA's MKUltra project, others view it as a product of the digital age, with its mythos bolstered by internet phenomena such as viral email chains and jump scare viruses. Additionally, music, literature, and personal accounts have further propagated the legend of SPCG, solidifying its status as a modern-day urban legend entwined with the complexities of the digital landscape. The solar plexus clown glider represents a fascinating and kind of creepy intersection of folklore, digital culture, and human psychology. And before we move on to the next one, I'll actually read a quick kind of first-person account of a solar plexus clown glider. Okay, now let's get into this kind of short story. So about the solar plexus clown shit. I've had contact with the entity back when I was 18 and did LSD for the first time. At the time, I thought it was just some weird trip, but after reading about SPCG, it's crazy, man. Okay, so basically I took around 100 milligrams of this blue gelatinous LSD shit about 2 p.m. on a school night. Anyway, I was chilling up until started getting late. By the way, I was completely doing it all wrong, no trip buddy, by myself, not in any way respecting the drug. Not a spiritual setting at all, just listening to music in my bedroom and on Twitter. I start to become annoyed at this point because it's like 1 a.m. and I'm a star athlete, and star athletes are supposed to have their 8 hours of sleep. So I close my eyes. A jet stream of visions bombard my third eye. Then nothing. Void. A buttery orange backdrop manifests around where my disembodied spirit now stands. I'm in some desert, I think. I pan this new surrounding and I see what I immediately know to be a carnival. And as I'm panning around, standing directly in front of me is this clown. Just a clown. Maybe a little spooky looking with his ear-to-ear grin, but still just a clown. He only stands in front and watches me. Nothing happens and the vision fades and I'm back in me. And now it's 5 and I call out sick. Didn't know what I saw, or if was anything worth even remembering up until recently. Some call him the gatekeeper and say he's actually Loki, a jester in court motley, or maybe it's a fallen angel, an interlooper residing in the in-being. Pretty weird story, but do with that story as you will. I don't know how legit that is, but yeah, just thought I would give kind of an example of this, solar plexus clown glider. What is out there? What can't we see? What don't we know? These are the final 3 entries on the iceberg, and these last 3 questions at the bottom refer to the questions, and they relate to tiers 3, infinity, and nothingness. Like, what is out there? What can we see? What don't we know? And I feel like this is kind of for you to decide, because I don't really know what is out there. It's up to you guys. So what do you comment down below right now? What is out there? What do you think's out there? What do you think we can't see? And what do you think we don't know? And all right, that wraps up the Infohazard Iceberg Explained. I really enjoyed making this iceberg. Definitely one of my favorites I have ever made. Definitely kind of just a mix of the philosophy iceberg, the existential crisis iceberg, like I said in the beginning of the video. But this one was just super fun to make, super fun to record, and I hope it was fun for you to watch. And if you're still watching, we're almost an hour in, so consider subscribing to the channel, turn on the notification button, doing all those fun things, comment what you'd like to see next, and yeah, thanks for sticking around till the end, and yeah, until next time, see ya.